Hello, everyone. I'm back. I haven't done any of my own content in a while. So I recorded this video of a project we've been working on that I've actually really been enjoying. And I think it really fits into this framework of our hands-on analytics idea, where we kind of talk through the thought process in the build and how you can leverage tools like Alteryx to do non-analytics functions, if you will. So we Alteryx is known for automation of these desktop analytics practices, or even a lot of accounting and finance functions within Alteryx. It does a really good job at that, and it allows you this opportunity to keep everything well documented, and even auditable if you need to. We have a client that they spend a lot of time in the onboarding and offboarding process. So how do we help them, take their process from hours and days to minutes, even, or seconds, with a platform like Alteryx. So we're in this conversation. We're going to just have a high level. I say it's a conversation. I didn't have anybody interview, so it's just me kind of rambling. But in this video, we go through a high level, high level deep dive. We talk about some of the functions of this. So how do we integrate Alteryx with O365 in the Exchange, Microsoft Exchange, and then how do we use what we do there with other platforms. So again, really trying to get you guys thinking about maybe ways you can think outside of the box with Alteryx, or other kind of workflow tools, maybe like a Workato or something of that nature. How can we use these tools to make our lives easier? And so without further ado, I provide hands-on analytics number 3, HR onboarding. And I just want to say, if anybody has any questions, or if you want to, if this gets anybody's brain spinning and you want a solution through something, please feel free to call me, or send me an email, find me on LinkedIn. This is my favorite part of the job, is solutioning, and just thinking about all of the steps that go into something, and things we have to think about as we develop, and we're going to have to watch out for. So I very much enjoy doing that. So without any further ado, hands-on analytics number 3, HR onboarding. Okay, so in good old, recording fashion, I recorded this earlier and then I forgot to turn my microphone on. So here we are, all practiced up, ready to go. And I want to tell you about some really cool work that we're doing with one of our clients. Essentially, they have this lengthy HR onboarding process with all these different platforms, and they wanted to figure out some way to make it easier, or make it happen faster. Because currently it takes hours to days to get people onboarded. And they brought this question to me, and they said, "Hey, is this something that we could do with a platform like Alteryx?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, we can do this with Alteryx." Now, Alteryx isn't the only thing that can do this, but Alteryx can do it. And I want to show you a diagram of how we're doing some of this work. I can't show you the actual workflow because they own it, and I'm not gonna do that. But essentially, what we're doing is we're taking let me show you. We have so there's a source data set. So it's some sort of form that the users, whenever they're going to onboard someone new, they fill out this form. So first, last name, title, manager, email, personal email address, location they're going to be working at. It's like 11 questions, and they've done a really good job with this form and making it very these are the things you can put in here. These are the specific names, so that when later down the road, I'm not having to worry about names being filled in incorrectly. That's on the manager side. Individual names will always be a problem, but that's just, that onus has to kind of be on the user to fill out names correctly. So anyway, so what we do is we take that source data, and we grab it. This is this form. The back end is SQL Server, but it could be anything. But well, again, that's why I love Alteryx. You can go into here and get whatever. So then what we're going to do is we're going to leverage the Microsoft the O365 Graph API. It's very well documented. There is a ton of documentation out on this. But it took a long time to kind of figure out like how these steps need to happen and in what order, and how like what can and can't be done where you think they could be done. So we're going to talk through that here. We're going to talk through these steps that we needed to make, and then just to give you an idea of how this works. And then there's a separate process. They need to set up like an Exchange account, which actually has to happen on the Exchange server, which doesn't have its own API. You have to use PowerShell. So we'll talk about that in a little while. So essentially the first thing we have to do, we have to register an application. So you have to, like, let's call it onboarding. So you have to have this onboarding application, and that application has to be given specific authority for different versions, for different API endpoints. So you'll see in documentation like what authority you need. It's not individual users, so it's not like the person running the script. It is the application has to have them. So what we do is we do the authorization. See, it says give. Okay, and then the first thing we do is create a user. So creation of a user is very limited in the amount of information you can actually put in there. It's only about 7 fields. So email address you want to create, a display name first. I don't even think first and last name is on there. Full name, I think, and then some information about passwords. So what we are doing is having Alteryx kind of create a random password, and then what it does is it sets that password and then sets it so that like it has to be reset whenever the person logs in for the first time. So this is like the very first thing. Well, authorization. This is the very first thing past authorization that needs to happen. Now there's kind of 2 branches that go from here. We'll talk about this bottom branch first. Essentially, what we do is once the user is created, we also, because we have the manager information, we're able to search for the manager's O365 ID with the user's endpoint. And then what we do is we get that ID and we assign that the user we just created to that manager. So now if you're using like your hierarchy within O365, they now roll up to them. And then if this person is actually going to be a manager, we have some logic built here to find the list of employees that roll up to that individual, and then we sign all of those to this new person's ID, so that that'll all be set up correctly in there, and we don't have to. So again, when we talk about like what takes a long time to onboard, these are like the little things that take like a lot of extra time. So we're just trying to like shave down this process through things like that. So so this can all happen. There's nothing down the line that is dependent on this being done, so we can just let this go. What we need to do next on this main branch is we have to update the user. So again, there's only like 7 points of information here. There's a lot of information that can be added here. So other things that come from your source data, whatever you want that to look like. First, last name, office location, personal email address, all these things that are important to the user profile, they can be added through the update user API. Why this is important. This information will probably be useful later when we get down here. And again, just wanting to get these as up to date as possible. We don't want users to have to go in and add more things later. Then what we need to do, and this took us a second to find, is that there is a license user endpoint. So just because you created a user doesn't mean that they have any O365 licenses attached to them. So in between this endpoint and this endpoint, we have a little wait script. It takes about 10 seconds between the creation of the user and the ability to license it. So we just do a little wait here. So we wait for 10 seconds. We use Python script and stop that. And then once the user is licensed, we send essentially this out to the PowerShell. There's one more thing though that's really important for us is that, let's talk about what we're doing with PowerShell first. So with the PowerShell script, we want to make sure that users have they're added to the correct distribution lists, and then we have forwarding emails set up. So in order to make sure that people are assigned to the correct distribution lists, we have some logic that we have to scrape through. So with this particular customer, they have like just like a list of all of their locations, and in that location information, they have they can create distribution lists from that, or rather, so like if I'm in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, I want to be in the user, the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma distribution list. So again, so we're having to figure out anyway, the point of that is that in the same graph API is we can go to our SharePoint list content. So if you're using this to manage anything that's not within your system necessarily, we can get that all in the same, because we've already done the authorization. There's just two endpoints. It's get list items and get item fields. This and this wait are like the two longest points of this process. So this one does take a few seconds. All of this, everything else happens almost immediately. So anyway, so we define which distribution groups the user is added to. So again, logic here. So this is why I like Alteryx, because I can build all this logic inside of there and then document it really well. And then essentially what we do is we generate a PowerShell script, and then we run that command line in Alteryx. To note, it does require this module Exchange Online Management. So you just have to install that on your local PowerShell instance, or if you're using Alteryx Server, you have to make sure that that PowerShell instance has been updated. And then we assign users to that distribution list and then forwarding emails. So this is what allows a user to actually onboard themselves. So like, hey, welcome to so-and-so company. Thanks for joining. Finish setting up your profile here. And that's how this link kind of works. So beyond that, like this is like the foundation. Now that we've got that done, we can talk about all these other opportunities we have for onboarding. So let's say what's cool. Well, so what's important about these is not everybody gets access to all of these. So if you have a CRM, you don't want necessarily everyone to have access to that. If you have a learning management system, you may want everybody to have access to that, but like different levels of access. And then you've got like project management tools like Jira, HR information. I can't remember what in HR tools, different analytics platforms. So like, let's say you want to create a user on your Alteryx server. Once they're logged in, boop, we can do that here. Or Tableau or Power BI or whatever analytics platform you're using. Same for like finance and accounting softwares. So if this person is an accountant and they need to be set up in NetSuite, they can be done. They should be able to do it. Again, anything that has an API endpoint or some sort of command line option for creation of a user. Again, that the difference there might be like, is it cloud? Is it an on-prem system? That'll kind of help point us in the direction that we need to figure that out. Anyway, and then like any help desk tickets like ServiceNow, again, Jira, Git, whatever collaboration tools that you're using. And then if you have like Okta or any other identity access management tools, we can usually set those up with an API as well, and then any file storage and sharing systems. So that's, the idea here. So again, Alteryx does this really well because Alteryx does manage APIs fairly well, especially now with like the control containers that were released recently, making sure that like this happens before this, etc. That's all pretty easy to do. And then luckily the Graph API with Microsoft Exchange with Microsoft O365 is well documented. And there's a lot of that. To note, you could probably also do most of this with PowerShell. But I didn't want to do it because I wanted it all to exist in APIs until I got here and I realized I had to use PowerShell a little bit. So going back, maybe I would think about redoing it in PowerShell. Again, I like this because all the individual steps are broken out and I can document them well rather than just like generating a script. And then if something fails with the script, then I have to go find that script. This is a little easier, I think, to manage on the other side. But yeah, this is again, a cool kind of project. I like doing integration stuff. I would say that's what I do fairly well in the Alteryx space. Where a lot of people I know use Alteryx for like accounting and finance, and really that's kind of the bread and butter. I like to work on these fringe use cases. So how do we do this sort of stuff? So if you have any questions about this sort of use case, or how do we use Alteryx to manage other workflows that have like API endpoints, or need to like do event triggers or something like that, please let me know. We'd love to talk through it with you and help you out.